Good morning, everyone. I welcome you to the Public Works Committee meeting for Thursday, December 7th, 2023. We have a rainy morning here. We have for roll call, we have Councilmember Schneider and Councilmember Althauser and myself, Councilmember Swarthout here today. Do we have any changes or additions to the agenda today? Nope. All right, so our first order of business is to approve the minutes for the Public Works Committee meeting for October 19th, 2023 and November 9th, 2023. So I have a motion to approve.
I move we approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right, so now let's move on to our next item on the agenda. We have ordinance number 0-2023-011, master permit with Ziply Fiber Pacific LLC with Mary Heather Ames. Good morning, how are you?
Good morning. I'm just doing the Zoom thing here. Okay. Well, good morning, Public Works Committee. I want to thank you for your time this morning. I'm gonna introduce the Ziply Fiber Master Permit. And first, I would like to show you the references which build the framework for this process. So I do this a lot of times when we talk about things we're going to do. So here's the legal framework. This is portions of the Revised Code of Washington or RCW and our own Tumwater Municipal Code. So RCW 35 covers cities and towns generally, and RCW 35.99 covers telecommunications, cable television service, use of right-of-way, and it includes things like permits, relocation, and the ability for a city or town to require additional ducts or conduits. RCW 35A.47.040 is specific to the permitting process, and an item of note is the requirement for a second reading of the ordinance, which means that Council would be able to act or adopt on this ordinance at the next meeting after the public hearing, if so desired. And we're going to be looking at a public hearing probably in January. Finally, our own Tumwater Municipal Code outlines all the items for a telecommunications master permit in Chapter 11.06. Ziply Fiber is a telecommunications service provider. This is likely the first time you're seeing the name in Tumwater, as Ziply acquired facilities previously held by another company that were installed in the 1990s. Ziply's current facilities are only serving a small handful of enterprise customers, but they are planning on expansion of service to cover all residents and businesses within Tumwater in the next few years. So this is the first step for them in taking over the acquired facilities. Ziply submitted an application and fee for a telecommunications master permit. Then we worked with them to produce an agreement that works within the legal framework that I mentioned earlier and is acceptable to both the city and Ziply. And this morning I am introducing the topic in advance of a public hearing to be held in January of 2024, with the ordinance to be adopted at a following meeting, as I mentioned, if council so chooses. This ordinance is in effect the master permit, which allows for Ziply to have facilities like conduit, fiber, wires, etc. within Tumwater's right-of-way. It does not allow for construction of new facilities, but instead details the permitting needed for construction of new facilities. It also allows us to have additional conduits installed and to build, which will help us to build our network as well. So moving forward, I will see you again in January for a public hearing, after which I hope Council will place ordinance number 2023-011 on the following agenda for second reading, and thereafter authorize the mayor to sign the ordinance granting to Ziply Fiber Pacific LLC a non-exclusive master permit to use the public right-of-way to provide non-cable telecommunications services to the public. So this concludes my presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions that I am able.
Okay, do we have questions? Michael?
Yeah, I guess so if I was a member of the public who sort of saw that this is coming up on the agenda and is wondering what that means for me in the long term, does this sort of mean that this organization or company, I guess, is interested in providing a consumer alternative to what the current options are for home internet service? Is this primarily geared towards state offices or city?
No.
Like what do you think, like what can sort of be the expectation for what might this hold for the future for residents?
They have stated that their plan is to expand their service to include individual customers, residents. Currently, their service is only for a small handful of large businesses, you know, like sort of like
Yeah.
our own city hall connection potentially. So yes, right now we haven't heard of them really, but their plan is to move forward. I should say this also allows them to continue with the purchase of the facilities that were constructed in the 1990s. I mean, they could just take on this master permit and never expand, but this gives them the ability to continue providing those services that they do now. However, they have indicated that they would like to expand their service.
Okay. And my second question is that on the slide it said that it provides us the ability to expand conduit.
Yes.
Can you explain that a little bit
Sure.
further and how that's connected with their permit?
So
I guess I'm just not
yes.
quite tracking that item.
Of course, yeah. So we, the city, do have some conduits in various locations throughout the city. We've been working on expanding that as we are able, and the framework in the RCW allows us to say, okay, service provider, you're expanding your service here, put an extra conduit in the trench for us, the city, to use.
Okay.
And the split of the costs and everything is worked out at the time, but we do have the ability to say, yes, we want to participate in this construction that you're doing. And then therefore we end up with a better network of conduit of our own that can be used for our own, or in some cases leased to others. So that's how that works.
That makes sense. Yeah, that seems like a great opportunity. But they would be coming back to city staff for a permit before that were to occur.
Correct. This is
in which case the council would be approving an expenditure to add conduit because it's not in the budget.
Right. Yeah. And generally, sometimes it goes along with, say, a project that we're doing, or yes, some expenditure from the budget.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Councilmember. You asked a lot of the questions I had in my head too. I was curious because I remember being on the Public Works Committee and there a while ago, and there was a company that also had made a request, and we all, people were getting all excited because they thought perhaps there was another internet provider coming to town. But I think that one was specifically really directed towards the school district, serving them, and that's been a while ago.
The most recent for me, we went through this process with Astound, which is Wave. And of course, we know Wave, we've been working with them, so it felt a little different, but the process is the same.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, one more opportunity maybe for another provider out there. So, all right. So any other questions for Mary Heather? Looks like we'll be taking this to council, our first January meeting, and having a public hearing on this. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So moving on to our next item on the agenda is the Bartcliff Park and Tumwater Hill Park restroom improvements, acceptance of work, and we will be hearing from Don Carney.
Morning again, Council. Today we have a couple of construction projects that we'll be presenting for acceptance, and I'll start out with Bartcliff. So let me get this come across okay? So yeah, Bartcliff Tumwater Hill Park restroom. We installed 2 restrooms this year. The end of
Don,
last year. Sorry.
you're sharing your own screen rather than the presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Don, you just need to click the presentation button at the bottom. The one that looks like I think it's the book.
Like that one?
Yes. Yeah, I
All
think
right. Good, thanks. So yeah, back to the park. We put in 2 restrooms this year. It was actually the end of last year. They were completed. One at Bartcliff Park in Tumwater Hill. This is the locations of the 2. The Tumwater Hill on the left-hand side, right next to the ball field. And the idea there was, of course, there's a lot of play up there, and this park restroom was needed for the ball field. And then, of course, Bartcliff Park gets quite a bit of use in the summertime, and it too needed a restroom. So again, why we did it? There were 2 single-use restrooms at both locations, similar to what was at the Deschutes Trail, the park, T Street Park. We went with the same manufacturer, and we purchased 2 of those restrooms and installed them at these 2 parks. Now, one of the parks, the one up on Tumwater Hill, we included a bike rack and improved an ADA ramp to the ball field and adjacent to the restroom. Here's a couple pictures of construction. I thought it was out there. It's interesting to see the crane lift these 2 prefab restrooms that were shipped here from Idaho. Once they arrived, of course, the contractor hired a local crane company to lift them into place. And here's a before and after on the top. We've got Tumwater Hill, and there's the ball field that you see in the background, and the new ADA ramp we improved and set the restroom on the backside. You can't see on the backside anyway. There's a drinking fountain as well. And down at the bottom pictures is the location where the new Bartcliff restroom was to be placed. So we did the design and managed the construction with staff, city staff. It was paid through park impact fees and general government fees. This one was to KBH Construction Company. It was in May 19th of 2022, when staff had requested that Public Works Committee recommend award of this construction contract to KBH for $215,900, and it was completed in, or at least staff had provided a final completion letter to KBH on December 31st, 2022. Final cost of that was $205,655. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So good morning, Don. So the question I have is concerning the Bartcliff Park restroom facility. I know there were several problems in the past on that. Are you comfortable enough that those have been resolved and those problems will come about in a future time?
That's a great question. Yeah, we did run into some issues with water. There wasn't it was pressure was the problem we had with both of those, and it was a combination of, I think the new toilet that was used for these facilities are different than the one that was down at T Street, and we didn't have everything in place in order to make it work the first time. So with a little bit of additional infrastructure, we were able to make those bathrooms work. And yeah, we've learned hopefully on this one for sure to next time look into that and see that we've got enough pressure and enough volume to make these work. Good question.
Okay, thank you.
Michael, do you have any questions? Okay. I know this is probably on the next one, but did we install one at Kindred Park as well?
We did not.
Oh, okay. So is there plans for one? Even though I know that there's residences are close there, but I was curious if that'll be on the, someday we'll be looking at that one as well. Because I think we have one at Jim Brown Park now, don't we?
Not sure about that either.
Not at Jim Brown? Oh, we still don't have one at Jim Brown? Oh, okay.
No, I don't think so.
We did.
I don't think we have them in any of the neighborhood or pocket parks.
Okay, all right.
But
Yeah,
Charlie,
when I
answer that,
Charlie has
though-
his hand up though.
So if I may answer that question, Eileen, when the park was first being designed, they asked the homeowners, did we want a restroom? Because that's been one of the biggest complaints in some of these parks. They don't have that. But
Mhm.
we as a neighborhood elected not to because the size of the park, it would take up too much room. And therefore it wouldn't allow for the play equipment that we wanted. So it's my understanding and my belief that at this time, it is not one on the drawing board, nor does the neighborhood wish to have that.
Okay, cool. All right, thank you for that. I appreciate it. All right, okay, so we have a recommended action on this item. The staff requests the Public Works Committee recommend the City Council accept the Barcliff Park and Tumwater Hill restroom improvements project as complete and authorize the release of the performance bond as soon as the laws of the state of Washington allow. Right,
So move.
I'll second.
okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right. All right, Don, thank you so much. And I think
Thank
you're up
you.
on the next one as well. So
Yes.
let me pull my agenda back up.
Though I think
Okay.
I think Council Member Schneider might be better at presenting this one than myself. Quite a bit more familiar with the beginnings of it anyway. So yes, Kindred Park. Go ahead and do this. The Kindred Park construction project, acceptance of work. It's kind of what we're looking to do here as well. This project was initially designed by started by a local consultant firm, and at some point staff took it over and finished the design work and then put it out to bid. The location of the park is just north of 93rd, kind of southwest of Old Highway 99 in the Preserve housing development, right in the middle there, phase 1, 2, and 3. Phase 4, I believe that's to the west of us. Phase 2 is a small neighborhood park. So what we did is we installed a covered picnic shelter that has lighting and electrical outlets. There's a large play structure for kids. And probably two of the better items here, I think, is a half-court basketball court and a 100-foot zip line that we were able to install. So we used up as much space as we had available for these toys. It's in the it's located in a community for gathering and for a safe place for the kids to play. I've noticed while during construction there was the kids were playing like street hockey, like not too far from where we're at. Now I know, as soon as that basketball court and large expanse of concrete was complete actually for that, There would have been a place for them to at least get off the street if they felt more comfortable there. So it was a park that was promised to the development a long time ago, and it was finally constructed. So here's a couple of construction pictures. Interesting, on the upper left-hand corner is a picture of this was a change in the design. We installed a catch basin and a pipe right in the play area. It ponded a lot and wasn't infiltrating as well. I was out there Monday this week and noticed that thing is draining really well, running water right into the pond. And that was, the playground area was really firm. So I think it's quite good for play. And concrete embankment slide on the right-hand side. It's kind of new, interesting feature that gets them to slide down into another bark area. That's where the zip line actually is located. We can look at that in a bit. And then our 24 by 24 picnic shelter here in the center, with 4 picnic tables and lighting. So here's a before and after picture. The location of the park, and right there's the half-court basketball court. So again, it was the design was completed in-house. It was started again outside, but we completed in here, and we did a majority of the inspection ourselves. Project management, of course, was done in-house as well. I was paid for park impact fees and general government fees. Tapani Inc. was the contractor. In November of 22, staff had requested Public Works authorize the mayor to award the construction contract to Tapani for $579,794. Final payment to Tapani at time of physical completion was $584,281. And that concludes my presentation. Any questions?
All right, gentlemen, do we have questions for Don on this one? Okay, well, thank you so much, Don, for that. It's so welcome to have another park in our repertoire of parks and offerings around our community. So, and that one looks really nice as well. So, yeah, the design and how it fits in that area, and I hope that the kiddos are happy with it over there in the preserve. So, all right, so we do have a recommended action in front of us. Staff requests that the Public Works Committee recommend the City Council accept the Kindred Park construction project as complete and authorize the mayor to release the performance bond as soon as the laws of the state of Washington allow.
I don't know if you wanted to make this one, but
Yeah, I think Charlie, come on, dude.
Well, I mean,
Sorry
you
for
already
you.
said it, but yes, so moved. Thank you for that. And I do want to add one quick thing if I could, okay, because I'm talkative this time of morning. And as far as the park is concerned, it also, we always mention the preserve, but we do have Rob Rice property adjacent to that as well. And I believe in our city regulations and rules that we have, that we try to offer a walking park within a half a mile of a housing development. So the city's fulfilled their obligation on that. So I just wanted to mention that. So as far as the amendment, I believe you already mentioned that. So I'm going to say so moved.
I'll second.
Okay, all right. With that, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right, thank you so much, Don. Motion approved, and we'll probably see this on a consent item, probably in January.
Very good. Thank you.
All right, scooting right along. Let's see. Oh, Don, you're back up again. So, between you and Bill, I think you guys own the agenda today. Let's see. So we'll be discussing the service provider agreement with Cardinal Architecture PC for the historic brewery tower renovation, amendment number 5. And take it away, Don.
Oh, sorry. I think that's me. I think so there's a number of agenda items, the contract amendments.
Right, but we have a service provider. We're on number 7, I think, right?
Is that yours, Don?
Yeah, so on my agenda, I've got the service provider agreement for number 7. Is it, okay. I haven't had that much coffee, but I think that's what it says.
Yeah, well, I mean, I certainly can talk about it, Bill. I thought
No.
that was intended
No.
to be in
Oh,
part of
yeah.
yours.
Yeah, hang on a second. So I
Okay.
was, sorry, council member. I think I'm gonna present on those contract amendments. So there's like 5.
Yep, we have 5.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that that's the item
Okay.
here, which is the so I'm gonna go ahead and get started on that if that's okay.
Super, thank you.
So sorry about that confusion.
Nope.
So I'm gonna share my screen. So there we go. So can you why that's
Can you see
there.
it? Yeah, thank you.
Can you see it?
Correct, yes.
Is it clear?
Yeah, it's the presentation screen.
Okay. So good morning, council members. So I'm going to present on the contract and agreement amendments, and we have 5 that I wanted to talk about today. Each one of them has a separate staff report, but we figured it'd be easier to present them all at once and then do the 5 recommendations at the end. So they're all separate recommendations. Most of them are pretty clear cut, straightforward. So whoops. So there's 5 agreement amendments. And so I have them listed out here. There's one for Kenyon Descend for the right-of-way legal services, a brewery tower agreement, and then 2 on-calls for our material testing. And then I wanted to talk about the fiber optic agreement. We had some changes to that. So
go
ahead.
To interrupt, but will we be you're going to be presenting them all at the same time then, and then we'll be taking action individually on each of the recommended actions on each of them, or right?
I can do it that way. I can.
I just probably get Karen to weigh in. How we need to do this?
It is separate actions. He's just doing it as one presentation. So at the end, when it's all done, he'll either leave the action recommendations up, or somebody on committee would read them individually and take separate actions.
Got it. Thank you. Want to be prepared.
Okay. So the first one here is the Kenyon Descend right-of-way legal services. And this is an amendment to an existing contract. This was to provide right-of-way acquisition services for the I-5 Trosper Road Capitol Boulevard reconfiguration project. And this amendment includes a term extension until December the 31st, 2024. So it extends the contract for another year. And it also has an hourly rate increase for their 2024 rates. And we don't really expect any additional work on this particular item, but we do want to hold the contract for another year until the project's completed in case something comes up. There's still money left in that contract, but the project's still under construction, so we want to have them on board in case we have something that comes up. So this particular amendment is pretty straightforward. The second amendment we have has to do with the Cardinal architecture, and that is the historic brewery renovation project. That contract's been around for a while. I think maybe back in 2020 it originally started. The previous contract and amendments was completion of the protection and renovation report, which was the first phase of that project. The next phase was the renovation, phase 1 for the roof and masonry work that they did for the project. And then there was a renovation phase 2, which was the seismic improvement work. And this amendment just extends the term of that contract until December 31st, 2024. So it's the same contract. We're just extending the time limit until that work has been completed. So it's a time extension. The next 2 I'll talk about are on-call material testing services. The first one up is our on-call material testing with MTC. So it's material testing and consulting. They're a firm that we use pretty often for material testing work. This is amendment number 1, and it's going to increase the cost of the project, or it's going to increase the total cost. I apologize here for a minute. For some reason, I have something. Is there something showing on your screen on this slide?
Yes, you can see the slide, and we see the amendment number 1, increase not to exceed amount to 95,000.
Okay, there's something showing up on my screen that's not apparently showing up in yours. So we're increasing the amount by 95,000. That happened in amendment number 1, and then this amendment number 2 extends the term of the agreement to December 31st, 2024. So that takes us through next year. Increases the total amount of the contract to the on-call contract to 195,000, and primarily MTC has been primarily supporting our I-5 Trosper Road Capitol Boulevard project. And then they'll also be providing material testing work for all of the projects that we have, or majority of the projects that we have for next year that are going into construction. This relates to the next slide, but we have upwards of, I think we might have upwards of 5 or 6 construction projects next year. And that's why we want to get these on-calls on board so that we can provide that material testing service for both of those, for all those projects next year. The next amendment is, again, material testing services. It's for Pacific Testing and Inspection, PTI. Again, they had a current contract last year, an on-call contract for 95,000. Again, we're asking to increase that amount to 195,000, and again, that's to provide material testing for ongoing construction projects throughout the city over the course of next year. So essentially, we're trying to bring 2 firms, extend 2 firms with material testing capabilities so that we can utilize those firms when our construction projects come up next year.
Can I ask a question about both of these?
Yes.
So if a contract is on call, does that mean that we essentially have these firms on retainer to the tune of $195,000? Let's say hypothetically next year we only use $170,000 worth of testing services. That means that we get a refund of $25,000, or like, how does the retainer operate in the event that we don't bill down that entire contract in the course of a calendar year?
Yeah, the on-call contracts are a not to exceed, and we use them as it progresses, and they're only paid for what they utilize. So it's not uncommon to have, you could set up a $100,000 on-call contract and only use 10,000 of it, and you just don't use the rest. So it's more of a need issue.
Yeah. So we're essentially providing administrative flexibility in the event that we need to go above 95, then you all won't have to circle back with council to get authorization to go to 110, for example.
Yes.
It's easier and quicker. Got it.
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
The last one I wanted to talk about has to do with the fiber optic agreement with Washington. So the city of Tumwater and WashDOT entered into an agreement in July 11th of 2005. It was an interlocal agreement to provide services to maintain and operate the fiber optic cabling within the city of Tumwater. And that agreement basically outlines the day-to-day operations of the fiber optic system and who's responsible for different components of that system. And the fiber system is utilized by WashDOT, fire, police, EMS, and also has a direct line to the golf course facility. So the amendments that I'm going to discuss today are related to that original agreement. that the city of Tumwater and WashDOT have. There are two amendments that I want to talk about today. Amendment number 14 is a repair to a damaged section of the fiber optic cabling that occurred during our roundabout project up on Trosper and Capitol. And the second amendment, number 15, is a rerouting of the fiber optic system that again was part of the I-5 or Trosper Road Capitol roundabout project. So for the fiber optic amendment number 14, that ended up being an emergency repair for the fiber optic cabling during construction. Early on in the construction of the roundabout project, the contractor cut through a 144 strand fiber optic cable. You probably remember it shut down the golf course and everybody else when they cut through the fiber at that point. The reason why they cut through it was because, as you can see in the picture below, the conduit was in the sidewalk. So the conduit isn't really supposed to be in the sidewalk. I'm not exactly sure how that happened from the past, but a normal contractor would not have been able to anticipate that when they saw cut the sidewalk that they would cut through the fiber cable. And there wouldn't have been any way for them to know it. So working with the contractor, we coordinated with WashDOT. We had to get that repair completed. WashDOT has a agreement with INSI, which is a firm that does fiber optic work. WashDOT moved forward with completing the repair under WashDOT contract K1582, which is part of the staff report package. The total repair cost on that fiber optic line was $27,679. Like I said, it's got a lot of strands in there, so it does cost a lot of money to repair those fiber lines. And then the fee for that will be paid for through the city fiber fund. So I might ask if anyone has any questions about this particular amendment. No.
Sorry.
Oh.
Had my mic up. So in this case, it'll be covered by the city rather than the contractor?
It will be covered by the city because the reality is the fiber line should have never been there. It would normally it would never be installed in a sidewalk like that. There's probably a high likelihood that when they routed the fiber, they reused an old conduit or something, and it's probably an old lighting conduit or something that shouldn't have been there. So amendment 15 is kind of related to the first hit that we made on that fiber optic line. Once that line was hit, we had the contractor go through and do a bunch of investigation on the existing fiber line to find out where it was, because in some locations it was at the proper depth and in other locations it was not. So we had to kind of figure out what's going on here. Why is it super high in some locations and at a normal depth in others? During that investigation, we found that it wasn't in the proper location throughout the project site. So we came up with the rerouting of the fiber to move it to a better location so that it was out of the way of all of our improvements. We worked with WashDOT on the routing component. It was rerouting of 1,200 feet of conduit and fiber. And we rerouted it. I'm going to switch to this other slide so you can see kind of what we did here. The original fiber line is the yellow dotted line that runs down Capitol and heads to Lee Street. And that line was just kind of, it was both above ground and below ground, and it was kind of just haphazardly put in originally. We did a reroute shown in the green, which is the 1,200 foot reroute. That one was actually, we bored that in pretty easy in about a day and a half. And we got it at a depth where it won't be impacted by any other projects in the future. So, and installed new fiber line as part of the project. The repair work again was completed by INSI. It was contracted by WashDOT, under WashDOT's contract K1588. The city portion of the repair cost was $63,472.78. And then WashDOT picked up 60,000, so we shared cost on that. And then again, the repair fees for this particular item are going to be paid through the city fiber fund. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know all of the details, but the city rents conduit for fiber, I believe. So that fund actually has an income, but I'm not sure exactly how that mechanism works.
Oh, and what happens to the yellow line then? Will that?
That yellow line is just abandoned in place. They pulled out the
Okay.
fiber. Yeah, they pulled out the fiber and then they just left the conduit.
Okay, so everything will be on the green one then. Okay.
Yes. And it's all up and running, so it's good to go. So
Okay.
if anybody has any questions on any further questions on the items that I've presented.
I just think it's interesting after the meeting the other night with when you're finding things you didn't know were there, like artifacts like this, things that weren't on the map apparently. So now we have an opportunity to make sure that everything's on the map.
Yeah, it is a benefit to when you find those things to actually fix them, because if somebody hit them at one point, they're probably going to hit them again. So it's better just to try to fix them if you can during the projects when we have them.
That's good to know. All right, gentlemen, do you have any questions for Doc or Bill? Sorry.
I have a question.
Yes.
Go ahead, Councilmember.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. So I have a question on the historic brewery tower agreement.
Yes.
I noticed in the information we were provided, it states here that the Second Amendment increased the amount to $312,290. And now it looks like you want us to extend that agreement. And if my figures serve me correctly, then that's increased the price cost another additional $11,000. Is that my understanding?
Are you speaking about the Cardinal Architecture Historic Brewery Tower?
I am, yes.
So that one is that one just extends the terms of service for the agreement.
Okay, because I see where the Second Amendment increased it not to exceed and it had $312,000. And then the Fourth Amendment increased it to $323,000. So I guess my question is, when you ask for the extension, does that include that $11,000 increase that I see? The rest, I'm not seeing it correctly.
I'm reading through the staff report right now.
I'm sorry, Bill, this is Don.
Yes.
The $11,000 was approved under amendment number 4. Number 5 just increases the term for another year. So 4 did the 11,000 that was approved as of last year. This year, we're just asking to extend the terms of the contract length of time.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
And I have a question on that project as well. Then has that work, if we're extending it, then it would mean that the work hasn't been able to be accomplished at this point, as we're still anticipating that?
I'm not sure I understand the question. So what we've done with the up-to-date is we've presented an option for a seismic retrofit to this structure. We've turned that in with a building permit to the city. And so now we're just waiting for that building permit to be reviewed. We're not going to do any work. That this contract, this amendment is to keep Cardinal on under contract while we're going through the building permit next year. They run out at the end of this year. We want to keep them on for any questions that should come up. And then, of course, we will be discussing future work, construction documentation from them.
Okay.
We don't have a construction documentation phase to their contract yet. So that'll maybe be discussed later this year or 2024.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right. Okay, so here we are at the end of our agenda as far as those items go. And we'll be taking action on these. I'm trying to get my computer. Here we go.
I think these all require action.
Individual
Probably
actions.
Individual
Right.
motions is the most clear.
Okay. All right, so the first one we're doing will be the Kenyon Descent. So let me pull that one up. Okay, staff requests that the Public Works Committee recommend the City Council approve and authorize the mayor to sign the Fourth Amendment to Professional Service Agreement for the right-of-way legal services, Capitol Boulevard Trust for Road Improvements Project with Kenyon Descend PLLC for a total compensation not to exceed $150,000. Motion to approve?
Yes, you moved item 9 on our agenda. That's the one we're on.
Well, because that's what he started with Kenyon, so I thought we would do it in
Okay.
order. Or do you want to do it in order of the agenda?
No,
'Cause
that's fine.
yeah,
I just want to make
okay.
sure I'm tracking.
Okay,
So
all
that we
right,
don't
sorry.
miss one.
So I guess another Karen question, do we want to do it by the, where it's on the
It doesn't
agenda, or
matter
by
which,
how it's presented? No?
yeah.
Okay. I want to do
No, I
everything
just
right.
wanted for my own tracking purposes to make sure. So,
Okay.
so moved.
Okay,
And I'll second that.
okay, all right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that one is approved, and now, okay, I have to toggle back and forth here. We will go on to the Cardinal Architecture. And let's see, is that the one? That's the one we just did,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
I move
Um,
that we recommend the city council approve and authorize the mayor to sign the Fifth Amendment to the service provider agreement for the historic Brew Tower renovation with Cardinal Architecture PC for a total compensation not to exceed $323,315.
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we've passed that one. Okay, moving back to the agenda here. Next one up will be the material test. I did have a quick question on that
Sure.
one. We have two different companies involved on that one. Do they test different materials, or is just, the need for two? I was just curious. Should have asked that earlier.
It's two separate service providers with the same service. It's just we're
Mhm.
spreading out the work.
Okay, great, thank you. In case anybody saw that one. All right, okay, so that one.
So are we on fiber or you're skipping to 10?
We're doing the service provider agreement with materials
Okay.
testing and consulting.
Okay, so agenda item 10, I move that we recommend the city council approve and authorize the mayor to sign the Second Amendment to the service provider agreement for on-call material testing.
And I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All right. Okay, and then now we'll be moving on to Pacific testing.
I
Number 11.
move that the Public Works Committee recommend that the city council approve and authorize the mayor to sign the Second Amendment to the service provider agreement for on-call material testing. Pacific.
And I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, all right.
So
And
the
let's
last
see, everything-
one should be fiber, correct?
Correct, with WASDOT.
I
Number 8.
move that the Public Works Committee recommend that the city council approve and authorize the mayor to sign the fiber optic agreement amendments number 14 and number 15, which allow the continued operation of shared fiber optic services.
And I'll second that as well.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, motion passes. All right, it looks like we've just got to the end. So
we do it all? Did
these
we do it right?
will, I think we got them all. Did we get them all? I think we
I
did.
think so.
Let's see.
Yes, I believe you did.
Did we get Kenyon? Yes, we did. That was the first one. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Okay. So these will be moving to a consent agenda. We're probably looking at January, the first meeting in January. Is that correct?
Probably the second meeting in January.
Okay, all right. And the only question I have is I don't know if council members, as far as the brew tower goes, as Councilmember Schneider has some questions too, just kind of an update maybe on someday at some point, what that looks like at this point. So there may be some questions about that one. So at this point, I think to prove it to go to consent, but just with that consideration as well. Okay. All right. Okay. Who would have thought we've been able to get this all done in an hour or less than an hour, y'all? So, okay, Councilmember Schneider, go ahead.
Thank you. I just have a few words I want to say. I've jotted it down, so I'm just reading off my paper. In closing, I just want to say how much I enjoyed being on the Public Works Committee for these past 4 years and working alongside my other 2 council members and the staff assembled here in Tumwater. Because of this experience, I will never take our roadways or infrastructure for granted. It's been both enjoying and rewarding, but honestly, I don't think I'll miss the early wake-up calls every other Thursday. But thank you all. Have a happy and safe holidays and a happy New Year's. So thank you, Chair.
Well said,
Charlie.
Councilmember Schneider. Yeah. This has been an awesome year. You guys, I can't believe everything that's been accomplished. This has been quite a year for construction and that we're still under construction. And just, I want to echo Councilmember Schneider's comments as well. This is my favorite committee. I know nothing about all this stuff, but it just absolutely fascinates me. And so I really, really appreciate the work you all do and getting us water and getting us roads that we can drive on, and we get fiber optics and all this cool stuff. So really, really, really appreciate your work on all of this. So thank you very much and wish you all a happy holiday as well. So
It's no general government committee, but it's okay. It's fine.
Nah. I'll take Beaver Deceivers over, general government any day. So,
Well, thank you all for the
So-
kind words. And Councilmember Schneider, we're going to miss you. So thanks for your efforts here. And one of these days, Councilmember Swarthout, I will try to come up with something as interesting as Beaver Deceivers. So.
Well, cool. All right. Well, if we don't have any additional items, I will call the Thursday, December 7th, 2023 Public Works Committee meeting adjourned. And stay dry, everyone.